Welcome back to Whispers of Azura. Tonight, the true adventure begins. Our tale does not start in a grand hall or on the open road, but in the cold embrace of iron and stone. Two adventurers drawn by whispers of a slaver's operation sought to put an end to their cruelty, but the hunters became the hunted. Now, shackled and separated, one finds themselves deep below ground, locked in a cell under the watchful eyes of ruthless captors, but chains are only as strong as the will that wears them. And tonight, fate is about to be rewritten. Introducing the first member of our party, Vexus, a tall, slender sorcerer with wild magic origins. Vexus has dark black hair, piercing weave purple eyes, and a vented metal mask secured by a brace around his collarbone. Born in Silverton, he lost his parents at a young age and was adopted by a kind family who helped him manage his chaotic magic with the mask, forbidding him from speaking. Over time, he learned to communicate telepathically, allowing him to live more freely. Now, with greater control over his magic, he sets out to carve his path as an adventurer. Alone in his cell, Vexus, the wild magic sorcerer, fixes his gaze on the two guards playing cards nearby. With a quiet breath, he reaches into their minds, weaving his thoughts into theirs like a whisper on the wind. One guard hesitates, his expression briefly clouded with uncertainty, before he rises and steps away, leaving the room. But the other remains, unmoved, his focus unbroken. Vexus exhales, retreating into silence once more. He'll have to wait. His moment will come. Soon enough, Vexus is escorted out of his cell by two guards and led to the camp's cafeteria, where 6 more guards keep watch. Behind the counter, a towering Goliath tends to a bubbling pot, chatting with a man named Eric. From their conversation, Vexus learns the Goliath's name, Obrus. Sensing an opportunity, Vexus reaches into Obrus's mind, planting the thought that he is the only good man among a camp full of villains. The Goliath hesitates, gripping his ladle tighter as confusion flickers across his face. But before their mental exchange can go any further, a sudden burst of flames leaps from the fireplace, igniting a small fire. Eric curses and immediately rushes to stomp it out, grabbing a nearby bucket as another guard joins them. The rest of the cafeteria remains on alert, but for now the blaze is under control. Vexus, however, watches with a knowing look. This may be the distraction he needs. Vexus feels a sudden tug on his arm, and a whispering female voice, seemingly from thin air, urges him to stay calm. Before he can react, he hears a faint click as one of the bindings pop open. In that instant, the arcane weave surges within him, no longer suppressed by the enchanted shackles. Power crackles at his fingertips, and without hesitation, Vexus begins to cast. Panic explodes throughout the cafeteria as the tension breaks, spreading like wildfire. Eyes snap toward Vexus, but before anyone can react, Obrus, the massive Goliath chef, does the unthinkable. With one swift motion, he cuts down the man standing between him and Eric, his former comrade. Eric, stunned by the sudden betrayal, charges at Obrus in a blind fury, the two crashing into each other with brutal force, exchanging savage blows. Amidst this chaos, Vexus does not hesitate. His magic flares to life as bolts of arcane energy lash out, striking guards with pinpoint precision. Sparks of electricity dance through the air as the guards scramble for cover, confused and disoriented by this sudden onslaught. Just when it seems like things can't get crazier, a figure emerges from the shadows, a pink bunny-like person, completely covered in black clothing. With a flick of her wrist, she begins firing a crossbow with shocking accuracy, each bolt finding its mark and catching the guards completely off guard. It's like watching a blur of movement as she makes her way through the room, silently picking off her targets. With a final, decisive strike, Vexus and the mysterious bunny person take down their remaining opponents, leaving only a bloodied, exhausted Eric facing off against the towering Obrus. Eric, his body battered and weary, looks up at Obrus with disbelief in his eyes, his voice ragged as he mutters, "I thought we were friends," before Obrus, with a swift and brutal blow, knocks him unconscious. The room falls eerily silent as the last of the combatants crumble to the floor. Vexus and the bunny person exchange a glance, then move quickly to drag the bodies down into the jail cell. Their steps are quiet but deliberate. Time is precious, and they need to rest before moving on. Once they've hidden the bodies, the bunny person takes a step back, removing her hood. A flicker of light reveals her sharp, curious eyes as she introduces herself. Introducing our second character, Hops, a pink-furred rabbit folk cloaked in black. Hops hails from the dense forest under Green Tree's dominion. Swift, silent, and deadly, she operates as an assassin for hire, striking from the shadows with precision and skill. Despite her unassuming appearance, those who underestimate her rarely get a second chance. Hops smirks, introducing herself with a casual confidence. She's been hired by the guild at Anchor Bay to eliminate the leader of this organization. An invisibility potion got her inside, but she doesn't have any left. Obrys, unfazed by the chaos, grins and waves a hand dismissively. He introduces himself as Obrys, the mighty druid, and also a chef. He may not fully understand what's happening, but he's more than ready to go along with it. Introducing our third character, Obrys the mighty druid, a towering Goliath clad in nothing but a loincloth. Obrys is a force of nature, both in strength and spirit. Wielding a massive axe with ease, he cuts an imposing figure. Yet beneath his rugged exterior lies a heart devoted to the art of cooking. A wanderer in search of his missing tribe, he roams the land, guided by the wisdom of the wild and the aroma of well-cooked meals. Hops and Vexus both exchange a bewildered glance, staring at Obrys, the mighty Goliath who had fought like a barbarian rather than a druid. Stood there with just an innocent grin. Both of them were unsure what to make of it, but they decided to let it be, for now. As they discussed their next steps and the plan to take down the leader of the slave traders, the sound of limping footsteps interrupted their conversation. It was Eric, the man who had barely managed to stand after the beating he received earlier. He hesitated for a moment, confused and worried, before holding his hands up in surrender. Eric's voice carried a mix of confusion and frustration as he questioned why he hadn't been killed. Obrys, ever the good-natured soul, simply shrugged. Vexus, ever the smooth talker, stepped in with his unusual charm. Eric had a choice, keep fighting or join them. There was no need for more bloodshed, but the leader of this operation had to fall. This was a chance to walk away from the mess and do something better. After a moment of hesitation, Eric weighed his options and slowly nodded. He was in. Now, all that remained was the plan. The group huddled together, formulating their strategy. The plan was simple, yet risky. Obrys and Eric would pretend to be guards. After all, they technically used to be. And take Vexus and Hops to the captain for causing a commotion. If all went according to plan, they get close enough to strike. The uneasy alliance was formed, but they all knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back now. The group easily navigated through the compound, with Obrys and Eric posing as guards while Vexus and Hops followed closely. They reached the captain's room without issue, but as the door swung open, they found something unexpected. A woman they hadn't planned for. The room fell silent for a moment, the tension thickening as they all sized each other up. Vexus, always quick on his feet, subtly used his telepathy to communicate with the woman, trying to figure out who she was. "You should leave," he said. "It's about to get messy in here," he attempted to warn her. But what Vexus didn't know was that the woman he spoke to was none other than the captain's wife. As the words left his mind, the wife immediately reacted, her eyes widening in realization. She quickly turned, rushing to warn her husband. "Intruders," she shouted. Chaos erupted in an instant. The captain, his wife, and the guards drew their weapons, while spells were cast, and the air thickened with danger. Blood began to spill as the group fought for their lives, but amidst the chaos, Vexus lost control over his wild magic. A sudden surge of energy burst out from him, an uncontrolled wave that hit Hops directly. The impact was immediate. Hops staggered, a pained look crossing her face as poison seeped into her system. Her movement slowed and her aim became unsteady. causing several of her shots to miss their mark. It was clear the poison had taken its toll, but she fought on, refusing to back down. The battle raged on. Opus and Eric held their ground, despite being injured and knocked around. The fight grew brutal, their enemies relentless, but eventually Opus and Eric were knocked unconscious. Their bodies slumped to the floor, having held the front line valiantly. But despite their fall, the enemies lay slain in battle. The room was littered with the bodies of those who had opposed them, and the blood that stained the floor served as a reminder of just how dangerous this operation had been. Though the immediate danger had passed, the group was left to pick up the pieces and tend to their wounds, physical, mental, and magical. They had succeeded, but the fight was far from over. They gathered notes proving the slaver's involvement and collected the captain's head as proof of the kill. Vexus then turned to his companions, saying he's going to find Aramel. He should be around the camp somewhere. Aramel Lardenoid, a cleric of Lathander. He had been a trusted ally, and Vexus felt it was crucial to track him down before moving forward. Stay tuned for the continuation of their journey in Session 2.